On the morning of my son's wedding, I woke up and reached up to touch my head. My hair was gone, completely shaved while I was asleep. Sitting on the nightstand was a note written in my son's handwriting. It said, "Dad, you look too old for the wedding video. I fixed it. You're welcome." I stayed quiet at first, but when I later discovered the bank transfer they had forged for $500,000, I understood that the hair was only the start. What I chose to do at that wedding changed everything. I woke up on my son's wedding day with a strange feeling I couldn't immediately explain. The sunlight coming through my window had the same soft September glow it always had. Outside, the Atlantic Ocean hit the rocks with its usual rhythm. Nothing looked different. Yet something felt deeply wrong. My head felt heavy and disoriented, as if I was trying to wake up through thick fog that wouldn't clear. Without thinking, I lifted my hand to run my fingers through my hair. It was a habit I had done every morning for decades, a small check that told me I was still myself. Instead of hair, my hand touched bare skin. For a second, my mind couldn't process it. My palm rested on my scalp, smooth and empty. I moved my hand again, slowly this time, searching. It was nothing, just skin where 63 years of hair should have been. I sat up too fast and the room spun. My mouth felt dry, my tongue heavy. I grabbed the nightstand to steady myself and waited until the dizziness eased. When it passed, I walked into the bathroom and switched on the light. The man staring back at me in the mirror was clearly me. Same gray eyes, same face shaped by time and experience. But above those familiar features was a completely shaved head, clean and exposed. The light reflected off skin that had never seen the sun. I stood there until the shock settled into something colder and sharper. This was not an accident. Someone had done this while I slept, in my own bed, inside my own house. I turned back toward the bedroom, and that's when I noticed the note. It was placed neatly on the nightstand, leaning against the lamp. The paper was torn from the kitchen notepad. The handwriting was immediately familiar. I had watched it grow from messy childhood letters into adult confidence. I picked it up and read it. "Dad, you look too old for the wedding video. Fixed it. You're welcome." I read it again. The words stayed the same. The tone was casual, almost cheerful. There was no apology, no explanation, just a single initial at the end, as if this were a favor, as if I should feel thankful. My son had done this. He had come into my room while I slept and shaved my head. Then he left me a note not to say sorry, but to justify it for the sake of a camera. I sat down on the edge of the bed, still holding the paper. The house was completely quiet. No footsteps downstairs, no sounds of wedding preparations. It was just after sunrise, the kind of peaceful morning I had always loved, when the world felt like it belonged only to those awake enough to notice it. But that morning, the quiet felt wrong. I had spent 40 years working as an architect. I understood structures. I knew when something solid had shifted, when a foundation was no longer stable, when collapse was coming. That was the feeling I had now. Something fundamental had moved. The phone rang suddenly, sharp and loud in the silence. It startled me. The caller was Arthur, my attorney and my friend for more than 20 years. The time was 6:47 a.m. I answered immediately. "Vincent," he said. His voice was tight. Arthur was not someone who panicked. In more than 2 decades, I had never heard him sound like this. "I need you to come to my office right now." "It's not even 7, I said. "I know what time it is. This can't wait. It's about your account. There's been activity, a large amount." He paused, then lowered his voice. "And Vincent, don't tell Travis you're coming." The call ended. I sat there with the phone still in my hand, listening to the silence return. My head was shaved. My memory felt incomplete. My son had left a note like it meant nothing, and my attorney had called before dawn, warning me not to trust my own child. I got dressed quickly. As I left the room, a clear realization settled over me. Whatever was happening had already been in motion for a while, and I had been asleep through it all. The drive to Arthur's office took less than 10 minutes. Newport was still quiet. too early for tourists and too late for fishing boats. I passed familiar colonial buildings while trying to organize my thoughts. My head was bare. My son was involved. Money was moving. 3 facts not yet connected. Arthur's office was on Thames Street, inside a brick building that had housed lawyers for generations. I had been here for over 20 years, during the years when Caroline was sick, after she passed, and for the ordinary matters of life. But I had never been here before dawn on a Saturday. I climbed the stairs and saw his door already open. Arthur Pembroke looked up, and his expression shifted. It was not surprise. It was controlled anger. "Vincent," he said, "good God. I had hair 3 days ago. Last night, I didn't." Arthur was 58, silver-haired, with the steady presence of someone who would spend his life helping others recover from disasters. We had known each other before Travis was born. He had stood beside me at Caroline's funeral. In all those years, I had never seen him this unsettled. "Sit," he said. His desk was covered in documents, statements, and folders, all with my name on them. He slid one page toward me. "Filed 6 weeks ago. Authorization to transfer $500,000. I looked at the signature at the bottom. It looked like mine. Same slant, same pressure. But I'd never signed it. "I didn't do this," I said. "I know," Arthur replied. "The transfer was scheduled for this morning at 7. Automatic, timed for the wedding. I review anything over 50,000. I froze it immediately." The implications spread through my mind like cracks in glass. "Travis," I said. Arthur nodded. "His residency account is in his name and his fiancée's, filed through his lawyer." He paused. "He's been planning this for weeks." I pulled the note from my pocket and handed it to him. He read it carefully. His jaw tightened. Same handwriting, since he was a child. He placed the note next to the transfer document. "That's 2 violations," he said quietly. "Your body and your money." He looked up at me. "You don't look well. You're pale, unsteady earlier." "I feel off," I admitted. "Foggy, like I can't fully wake up." "Did you eat or drink anything unusual last night?" I tried to remember. There was nothing, just blank space. "I don't know," I said. Arthur went still. "That's not like you. You notice everything." We sat in silence for a moment as the building slowly came to life around us. "We need urgent care," Arthur said. "Now. Blood work. Whatever happened last night, we need answers." He grabbed his coat and keys. "After that, we're searching your room." He didn't say the word, but we both understood. Someone had put something in my system, something strong enough to knock me out and erase my memory. And my son knew I wouldn't wake up. We left immediately. The urgent care clinic was nearly empty. A nurse took my information and glanced briefly at my bare head before leading me back. "Blood draw first," she said. I watched the vial fill with dark red blood. It looked ordinary, hiding things I never imagined were inside me. "We'll have results in 90 minutes, she said. "We'll call." Arthur was already standing. "We need to check your house before anyone else arrives." The drive back took 8 minutes. Wedding preparations would start soon. Caterers, florists, cameras, time mattered. My bedroom looked exactly as I had left it. The bed unmade, bathroom light still on. "Where would he put it?" Arthur asked, pulling on gloves. I thought like Travis would. Confident, careless. "The nightstand," I said. The scotch bottle was still there. Macallan 18, 3/4 empty. The bottle Travis had brought on Friday night. Arthur lifted it carefully and smelled the opening. "Can't tell, but we're keeping this." He sealed it into an evidence bag. At 9 o'clock, my phone rang. The nurse said the results were ready. We drove back in silence. The doctor was young and careful with his words. "Mr. Carter," he said, "your blood shows benzodiazepines. Do you take sleep medication?" "No," I said, "never." "The levels suggest 2 to 3 tablets. That's a significant dose. When did you last eat or drink?" The question unlocked the memory. Friday night, 10 o'clock. Travis standing in my doorway with a bottle. "Dad, let's have a drink. One last night before I'm married." I had been surprised, touched. He had sat on my bed and poured 2 glasses. Macallan, 18, my favorite. He remembered. "To new beginnings," he said. We talked. He asked about his mother, about her laugh, about the garden she loved. I drank slowly. He barely touched his glass. "You should rest," he said after my second drink. "Big day tomorrow." I felt warm, comfortable, grateful. I fell asleep before he left. "I drank scotch Friday night," I said slowly. "My son brought it." Arthur's eyes hardened. The doctor looked between us. "If medication was given without consent, that's serious." "I know," Arthur said. "We need copies of everything." In the car, the evidence bag sat between us. "He planned this," Arthur said. "All of it." I stared out at the gray ocean. "He crushed pills into my drink and watched me drink it." Arthur's voice was flat, premeditated. We sat with that truth as the wedding day continued moving forward. By the time we left the clinic, the morning had fully unfolded. Cars moved steadily along the streets, shops began to open, and people went on with their routines, unaware that my life had quietly shifted beneath the surface. The wedding was scheduled for the afternoon, only a few hours away. Guests would soon arrive, dressed in celebration, smiling for cameras, believing they were attending the happiest day of my son's life. None of them knew what had already happened behind closed doors. Arthur drove while I sat in silence, my thoughts circling back to the same realization again and again. Travis had not acted on impulse. Every step had been planned. The timing of the drug, the forged transfer, the wedding day itself. It was all designed to happen at once, when I would be distracted, emotionally exposed, and surrounded by people who would never suspect him. When we reached my house again, cars were already lining the street. The caterers had arrived. Large white vans stood near the entrance, and workers carried trays and equipment inside. The house, which had been quiet and familiar earlier that morning, now felt like a stage being prepared for a performance. Arthur parked down the block. "We need to be careful," he said. "If he realizes you know, he'll adjust." I nodded. "I'll play my part." Inside, the atmosphere was cheerful and busy. Music played softly. The florist was arranging flowers near the staircase. My daughter-in-law's family moved through the rooms, chatting and laughing. When they saw me, several people paused briefly, their eyes flicking up to my head before quickly looking away, pretending not to notice. No one said anything. No one asked. Travis spotted me near the living room and walked over, his face lighting up in a practiced smile. "Dad, you're up early." "So are you," I replied calmly. His eyes lingered on my scalp for just a fraction of a second, then he laughed lightly. "Looks clean, very modern." I held his gaze. "You always were creative." He smiled wider, mistaking my tone for approval. "I just wanted you to look good on camera. You know how these videos last forever." I nodded slowly. "Yes," I said, "they do." His fiancée joined us, slipping her arm through his. She looked radiant, excited, completely focused on the day ahead. I studied her face carefully. There was no guilt there, no awareness. If she was involved in the money transfer, she hid it well. Or perhaps she truly believed I had approved it. "Dad," Travis said, lowering his voice slightly, "everything okay? You seem tired." "I didn't sleep much," I said truthfully. "Well, rest later. Today is about family." The word felt hollow. Arthur arrived shortly after, blending into the background as if he were just another guest. He nodded to me briefly. The plan was simple. We would let the wedding proceed. We would gather proof, and at the right moment, we would act. As the hours passed, I watched my son closely. I noticed the small details I had once overlooked, how he checked his phone repeatedly, how he spoke to his lawyer in hushed tones near the back patio, how confident he looked,
as if he believed the outcome was already decided. At noon, Arthur pulled me aside. "I confirmed something," he said quietly. "The transfer request included a clause. It wasn't just a withdrawal. It was set up as a permanent access authorization, even after today." My chest tightened. He wanted control. Arthur nodded. He wasn't planning to stop. The wedding was held in the garden, overlooking the water. White chairs were arranged in perfect rows. The sky was clear, the kind of blue people later describe as lucky. Guests took their seats. Music began to play. I sat in the front row, hands folded, my expression calm. Inside, my thoughts were sharp and focused. Every word spoken, every vow exchanged felt distant, like noise coming from another room. When Travis stood at the altar, smiling proudly, I remembered him as a child. His first steps across this same lawn, his laughter when Caroline chased him with a hose in the summer. The memory made what he had done feel even heavier. The ceremony ended to applause. People stood, cameras flashed. The newly married couple walked back down the aisle, glowing with celebration. At the reception, speeches began. Friends spoke about love and loyalty. Family members shared stories of trust and devotion. Each word felt like a quiet contradiction. When it was time for my speech, the host gestured toward me. "Now, we'd like to hear from the groom's father." I stood slowly. The room fell silent. Faces turned toward me, expectant, smiling. I looked at Travis. He smiled back, confident, relaxed. "I've known my son his entire life. I've watched him grow, make choices, and build the life he wanted." There were nods, quiet murmurs of agreement. "Today," I continued, "is about commitment, about honesty, about respecting the people who trust you." Travis's smile tightened slightly. "Trust," I said, letting the words settle, "is something you take, is something you protect." Arthur stood near the back, watching carefully. "I want to give the couple a gift, not money, not property, something more important." The room leaned in. "I want to give them the truth." The silence deepened. Travis's expression shifted from confusion to concern. "Earlier this morning," I said evenly, "I discovered that I had been drugged in my own home. While I was unconscious, my head was shaved without my consent." Gasps spread through the crowd. People looked at me, then at Travis. "At the same time," I continued, "a forged document was filed to transfer $500,000 from my account into an account controlled by my son."
The room erupted in whispers. Travis stepped forward. "Dad, this isn't—" I raised my hand. "I have medical reports," I said. "I have bank records. I have the bottle used, and I have the note." Arthur moved closer, documents in hand. "This wedding," I said, my voice steady, "was timed because my son believed I would be too distracted, too embarrassed, or too emotional to respond." Travis's face had gone pale. "But I am not confused," I continued, "and I am not weak." I turned slightly, addressing the guests. "I won't ruin this day with anger," I said, "but I will not ignore what has been done." I looked back at my son. "You made your choice," I said. "Now you will live with it." The room was completely silent. Arthur stepped forward. "Law enforcement has been notified," he said calmly. "The transfer was stopped. An investigation is underway." Travis opened his mouth, then closed it. His wife looked at him, confusion turning into fear. I stepped away from the microphone. "I wish you honesty," I said quietly, "because without it, nothing you build will last." I walked out of the reception hall without looking back, leaving behind a celebration that had transformed into something else entirely. The air outside felt cooler than I expected as I stepped away from the reception. The sounds of celebration faded behind me, replaced by the steady rhythm of the ocean in the distance. I stood still for a moment, breathing deeply, letting the reality of what had just happened settle into place. I had not raised my voice, I had not insulted anyone, I had simply stated the truth, and that truth had changed the course of my son's life. Arthur joined me a few minutes later. He closed the door gently behind him, as if respecting the weight of the moment. "They're in shock," he said, "most of them." I nodded. "Shock fades. What comes next won't," he replied. We walked toward my car together. My hands were steady, but my chest felt heavy, as though I were carrying years of unspoken realizations all at once. The betrayal hurt, but what hurt more was understanding how carefully it had been planned. Arthur drove. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. "The investigation will move quickly," he said finally. "There's clear evidence, medical proof, financial records, intent." "I don't want revenge," I said. "I want clarity. You'll get accountability. That's not the same thing." When we arrived back at my house, the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the lawn. The chairs were still set, the flowers still stood. Everything looked unchanged, as if nothing significant had occurred there at all. But I knew better. Later that evening, my phone rang. It was my daughter. "Dad," she said softly, "I just heard." "I assumed you would," I replied. "Is it true?" "Yes." There was a long pause. "I don't know what to say," she finally said. "You don't need to say anything," I told her. "Just listen and learn." She didn't argue. Over the next few days, the truth spread quietly. The wedding photos were never posted. The video was never released. The story didn't need to make the news. It moved through private conversations, through lawyers' offices, through family calls that ended in silence. Travis was questioned. His account was frozen. His explanations changed with each retelling. First, it was a misunderstanding. Then it was permission he believed he had. Then it was an accusation that I had promised him the money years ago. None of it matched the evidence. The investigation concluded what Arthur already knew. The medication had been intentionally added. The document had been forged. The timing had been deliberate. Charges were filed. I was asked if I wanted to press forward fully. "Yes," I said, "I do." Some people expected me to soften, to forgive quietly, to handle it within the family. But I understood something they did not. Allowing this to disappear would not heal anything. It would only confirm that boundaries did not matter. Weeks later, Travis came to see me. He stood at the doorway, thinner than I remembered, his confidence replaced by something uncertain. His head was lowered. "You didn't think you'd do this," he said. "That's the problem. You didn't think of me at all." He looked up. "I needed help." "I needed honesty," I said. "Instead, you chose control." "I was scared," he said. "So was I replied, "when I woke up and realized my own son had drugged me." He had no answer. "I won't excuse what you did, but I won't pretend you don't exist either. The consequences will stand. What happens after that depends on you." He nodded slowly, then turned and left without another word. Life did not return to what it had been before. It never does after truth is exposed. But it became clearer, quieter, more intentional. I updated my estate plans. I placed safeguards where trust had once been automatic. I made my expectations clear to everyone still in my life. Some relationships grew stronger, others faded. Months later, I sat alone on the same porch where I had once watched Travis learn to ride a bike. The ocean moved as it always had, indifferent to human choices. I touched my head. My hair had grown back unevenly, thinner in places, gray where it once wasn't.
I didn't mind. It reminded me of something important. Age does not make you weak. Silence does. That day taught me that justice does not always arrive with anger or shouting. Sometimes it comes calmly, spoken clearly, and placed exactly where it belongs. And sometimes the hardest lesson a parent must learn is that protecting yourself is not betrayal. It is survival. If you want to hear more deep and meaningful life stories like this one, please make sure to subscribe to ZERIX Truth. Your support helps us bring more of these incredible journeys to light. Thank you for being a part of our community, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.